All right, so we are going to be uh, interviewing a guest on their business. So let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself and your bakery.
My name is Jaime Chavez. I own and operate My Biscuit. It is a bakery, a breakfast bakery in Sonoyta, Arizona. Um, and we are open every day, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
All right, fantastic. And so what prompted this was wanting to know what kinds of things people were doing to kind of uh, you know, cut into capitalism more or less. And you mentioned that your bakery's incentive structure, so to say, is has kind of a unique model. So, if would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Yeah, so yeah, I've always kind of felt like especially in a kitchen, it's very much a united front. And so everybody has just as important of a job as everybody else. And so to reflect that, I felt as though it was only fair that everybody got paid the same as well. So we all get paid $20 an hour, which is a decent livable wage anyways. When I was originally projecting it, it was a lot better than what it is right now. Yeah, so the intent is to give my employees a livable wage and also incentivize them to, really take hold of the business as their own because, in my opinion, it is. I wouldn't be able to do the amount of things that I could do without having other employees. And so, in that regard, we're all in it together and we should all be getting paid the same.
Right. And so, when you say kind of give some, make them feel as if it's kind of their own, like their salary more or less can increase if the business flourishes is my understanding. Like if you create more profits, that creates room for everyone to get paid a bit more. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The intent is $20 an hour being base,
Hmm.
and then once we get profitable, the intent would be once every quarter, paying out the profits in equal shares, and then there would be just one share. So it would be everybody there. We have one, two, three, four. We have five employees, including myself. So it would get split six ways,
Hmm.
and then that one remaining way would be to go back into the restaurant itself to improve on things, to purchase new equipment or anything like that that we would need to.
Right, right. So in that regard, it's not quite a co-op, but it's co-op adjacent. Would
Yeah, it's
be a fair
about
way
as
of saying.
close as you can get in a capitalist society to a co-op without all the, extra legal steps and everything like that.
Right. So for a small business, this probably makes a lot of sense. Um, is this something that you started yourself? Did you start it with someone else? What was the
Yeah,
inception of Butter My Biscuits?
my mom and I actually. So it's a generational family run business,
Okay.
and I went to culinary school a few years ago, and then I was working at the school up until the pandemic,
Hmm.
and then of course I was laid off as a service industry worker, and so kind of took that opportunity to see if maybe we could make it out on our own. And so yeah, we went from there. My mom's been in the pharmaceutical industry for a long time and had kind of decided that she wanted to branch out into, the restaurant industry along with me to kind of help me live my dreams.
Hmm. Hmm. So you were laid off as effectively an essential worker during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because at the school they had a restaurant, and
Hmm.
so I was helping them operate the restaurant, and then they had to close down the restaurant as per the orders at the time,
Right.
and then yeah, just never got the job back.
Gotcha. Um, so what's very interesting about that is you've managed to get this kind of up and running amid the pandemic. How has that been? Has that been like, have there been challenges there? Uh, Or
Um, so thankfully, it was kind of, near I say the tail end, not like we're not still going through it, but it was, more near the where it's kind of become more normalized.
okay.
People have kind of learned how they're going to live with it.
Hmm.
And so that hasn't really impacted it nearly as much actually as the flour prices,
Mm.
due to the conflict in the Ukraine in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, right, right.
And so surprisingly, yeah, that has had a far larger impact than the impacts here at home.
Very good, very good. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit also about kind of shifting back to that structure you've set up and the effect that has on employee morale and retention. Because you know, you read a lot about how uh, higher wages and actually making people feel they have some degree of uh, ownership and agency within a company has positive effects on those things. But like getting an actual anecdote or real example is, useful.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We've only been open for just over 2 months now, so
Okay.
long-term retention is a little bit hard to say for sure. But I have, like I said, I have 5 employees. One of them started off with me at the very beginning. I've lost a couple employees, but I have, like I said, I've only lost two, and in the restaurant industry, turnover rate is usually quite a lot higher than that.
Right.
The higher incentive definitely helps, and I do truly believe that them knowing that I'm getting paid equally as well, and they see me there every day as well. I have a 4 days on, 3 days off structure as well, which is hard to get in the restaurant industry.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I make sure that they get 40 hours and that they don't have to do any more than that. But I do that by making sure that they get their time off and I just don't take days off. I will in the future. I just, it's my business model. And so as of right now, I will pay those dues until we can get more revenue and hire more employees.
Right. Right. Um, Out of curiosity, if this proves to be wildly successful and the business grows substantially, and is there a point at which you would consider actually shifting to a fully co-op model and getting everyone on as like a voting member for making business decisions and such?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the intent.
It's the intent.
To be kind of frank, I want to be able to pay off all of the debts of the
Sure.
business first. Like I said, using that profit sharing model of using the equal shares and the profits going back to the restaurant. But then yeah, once everything's good to go, absolutely, or at least on its way, in a very very good manner. As long as it's on its way, I would absolutely, go right into the co-op steps. And then once this restaurant becomes wildly successful, the next restaurant would be able to start off directly as a co-op.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that that's something that a fair number of small business owners actually kind of, a lot of them do start out wanting to be a little bit more generous, but then at some point they like pass the business off or something before it ever actually becomes employee owned. Just knowing that that's kind of the model that you're going for from the get go is uh, excellent. um,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. Um, so, out of also curiosity, you mentioned that it's a local business there. Uh, do you, I mean, just frankly, do you do like orders or shipping or anything like that, or is it just for local business at this time?
Just at this time, yes. We don't use any preservatives, and
Okay.
we're also Sonoyta is also quite high altitude, and so the pastries and the baked goods as a whole wouldn't last very well, and the quality would deteriorate quite quickly as soon as it started going down in elevation at all. I found this out bringing biscuits that I had made at my restaurant back home down in the valley, which, if anybody's familiar with Arizona, is a lot lower in elevation.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, those biscuits were dense, to say the least.
right. Dried out. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I gotcha. Had to ask.
Yeah, yeah. But I do, however, do supply the buns for a restaurant called Copper Brothel Brewery,
Okay.
and some breads for a winery out here as well. So you don't just have to be able to be in Sonoyta in the morning. You can be in Sonoyta any time of day and try my breads.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Very good. Um, so, uh, tell a little bit more about you and kind of your um, past work experience, or did you go through all of that? You mentioned several things, but just checking
No,
if
yeah, I talked about my education,
right.
going to culinary school, but before that, I spent about 7-ish years in the restaurant industry.
Okay.
And then I had spent a little bit of time out of the restaurant industry in car sales, but we won't talk about when I sold my soul. But yeah, no, I've done everything in the restaurant industry from dishwashing to cooking to front of house work to catering. And so that was kind of, in my opinion, what really honed my belief that it really does take the entire kitchen to make the whole unit work.
Right.
And so that's kind of where my philosophy had stemmed from, was I had started off as a food runner, and then I moved to front of house of work, and then I moved to back of house work. And I realized it's, it might be different work, but it's still a lot of stress and a lot of walking at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all of those like moving pieces working together that make the whole thing function.
Yeah, exactly. Because if one person's out, or you have that one person that just slacks off that one day, it really just throws a wrench into everything.
Hmm. Yeah, so 7 years you've definitely been around the block on the restaurant world. Very good. Um, and what kind of I suppose inspired you to do this praxis? Like what led to your belief in this sort of model that you're pursuing? Uh, Kind of the personal journey of your the politics of your restaurant business, so to speak.
Yeah. So,
Well, and
I've
I know
I've
you
been in
said,
the industry.
yeah, I know you said that like that's from your experience in the restaurant industry.
Oh
I'm just
yeah.
curious if there's anything else driving it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been in the industry for, almost a decade, about a decade now.
Hmm.
And the hardest part for me about it, to be honest, is the fact that when I came into the restaurant industry, I was making about $12 an hour. And then when I left, like working in the restaurant industry, I was making about 13.50.
For seven
So,
years, you got a
yeah, in
buck 50.
7 years, yeah, there was a $1.50 increase in pay. And
Whew.
I just thought that was wild.
Yeah,
And yeah, and so it was just, if I can show that paying, cooks and service industry workers more, can be, can show the capitalists that it makes them more productive, then they might adopt the same model, or at least a similar one, or at the bare minimum, they might pay some people a little bit more.
yeah. I wouldn't be too hopeful on convincing capitalists, but at the very least, it would create a competitive alternative that you know socialists might pursue.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a capitalist that's an employee is still going to see that and be like,
That's
$20
true.
an hour is still better than 17. And so then, working for a socialist has its effects after a while, in my
It
opinion.
does, yeah. Um, and that, that's actually that's something that I talk about sometimes on the channel is the idea that every sort of interaction, every sort of social group, whether it's a book club or employment or familial or whatever, um, there is a exchange of ideas, culture, politics. Like it's there, and so using that structure to facilitate a change in thought against the wave of propaganda that we're all raised in is, I think, an excellent thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that you have to ring the bell because once the bell is rung, it can't be unrung. And so
Yeah,
once people are able to break through that, that propaganda even a little bit, even if they don't understand that that's what's happening necessarily, sometimes that can be even more effective because
oh,
they
absolutely.
realize, oh yeah, I've already stepped through this door.
Yeah, yeah. That way, they're not bouncing off terminology that they've been trained to reject. They're living it and experiencing it themselves, and see the tangible benefits, as
Yeah.
compared to getting $1.50 increase over 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And
uh,
and then being happy about it, right? Being
right.
happy that he's like, well, it was more than I was making.
Oh yes, yes. Please give me some more scraps. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just a few more, please, then I might make it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um. So that's excellent. So, what? Let's see. Are there other forms of other forms of activism that you kind of see your business, or yourself being involved in? I know a lot of some, like, food industry places start dabbling in trying to find ways to promote, like, feeding uh, the
Mhm.
unhoused and things like that at times. Uh,
Yeah, so there is an organization that I just recently found. I can't think of their name right now.
hmm,
But yeah, they actually will take the leftovers that we have every day, and because we make everything fresh as well, that would be really good.
yeah,
As of right now, what I've been doing is so first thing is I always let my employees take whatever we don't sell for the day, so that they
excellent.
have food at their house. Yeah, their kids or their spouse or whomever can eat if they need it. And so I always make sure that the staff can eat whatever they need and always on the job as well. And then
It's
but
better than
yeah,
it going to
anything
the
else that's
dumpster.
left over from that. Yeah, exactly. And then anything left over from that, the partnerships that I have, like I said, with with Rune Wines and with Copper Brothel, I'll go over to them. They also have employees, so I like to feed them sometimes too. Other than that, I'll just go around. I've met quite a few people. It's a pretty small town. It's only about 700 people around here,
Hmm.
so you get to know people pretty quick.
Hmm.
So I'll just make my rounds and offer up some of the baked goods that we have that's left over. And usually it's not too many anyways. So by the time the employees get some, I usually only have a handful to pass around anyways.
Sure, but, like, minimizing waste is definitely excellent.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. Even more so, we're in a drought out here in Sonoyta, as I'm sure
yeah.
most people know in Arizona, we're in a drought. And so we use post-factory waste compostable materials for our packaging. So we do only to-go items, and we use the sugar cane fibers that are waste product after they extract all of the juices and everything to make sugars and rum.
Okay.
And then they turn that into to-go packaging for restaurants, actually.
Oh
So it
wow,
helps minimize waste for factories and it helps reduce the amount of water that we have to use out here.
that's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought it was pretty awesome as an option, and the fact that it's just kind of a mainstream option and it's not something that's more widely talked about is kind of wild to me too.
yeah. So, if someone were interested in looking up more about it, like, who could they look to, or what would they look up about that?
Like I would look up sugarcane fiber
Sugarcane. Okay.
packaging. Yeah, because there's so many different options as well. It's not just like to-go containers.
Hmm.
It is, they have I'm trying to think of what the term is right now. Like vegetable plastics. They make like cellulose fiber and things like that. And so, they do make quite a few different products out of it as well, not just uh, to-go containers and things like that.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Because that, you, you can grow a lot of sugarcane compared to the rate of growing trees, I would think. Um,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And from what I understand, sugarcane juice is very tasty as well. So it's good for, mixing into like tea and stuff like that.
oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Was there Is there anything else that you would add? I've kind of run through most of the questions that I wanted to dig into, but if you have other thoughts or subjects that you would want to broach, I'm totally open to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that your questions were quite inclusive, and yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is, you don't have to do big things like this. I started my journey into like actual praxis, just going to marches, going to protests, just holding out signs, anything really that you can do to help, magnify voices that need to be heard is always a benefit. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary investment. It can just be a time investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has a way to affect change in that, even in a small capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only other thing that I would add too is that it is not illegal to talk to your coworkers about what they get paid and what you get paid. And the more of us talk about it, the more we have power against the lower wages as well. And so that can be something that doesn't cost you anything, that can still increase your wages, and that's always something that I advocate for.
Yeah, that's very good advice. One of the things that I'm going to be exploring in a video essay I'm working on is ways that we've been conditioned to live as a means of destructing community and the ability to organize within the community. And so that's very much a topic that needs more of a spotlight on it because yeah, people used to, when they would go home from work, they all generally lived in close proximity with their coworkers. So it made it very easy to organize and talk about work issues outside of work. And we really don't have that same benefit these days.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's like you said, it's just structural, and it's, yeah,
Mhm.
I can't wait to see that. It's honestly gonna be very sounds like a very interesting topic.
Yeah, it's still very much in the research phase, but it's a pretty broad one.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that you could definitely get lost in the research on very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, Jaime, and to talk about your business and your uh, kind of to give an example of what someone could do to make a shift here while capitalism still rules everything. If someone finds themselves in a position that they can start a business, this sounds like a very based way of doing so.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the time that you gave me as well to speak with your audience and to speak with you. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good talking to you. All right. So just real quick, once more, the town people can go to look for your business is where again?
It is Sonoyta, Arizona. Butter My Biscuit. We're on Facebook. We're on Google. We're on Yelp, Instagram as well. Butter My Biscuit AZ. Yeah, you can find us. You'll know you found us when you found the nice massive biscuits and the delicious danishes.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. Have a great day.
You too.